Imagine Shaolin Kung Fu monks doing bicycle kicks and setting whole footballs on fire, a disgraced football star turned coach forming an underdog team, and a heroine unlike any other, all in a soccer match. Well, that's Shaolin Soccer for you. Soccer, but with a Dragon Ball twist. Full-on slapstick gold, where Kung Fu meets FIFA. This film epitomizes Hong Kong cinema. But after smashing box office records and winning hella film awards, something weird happened with its US release. Not to mention the 22 years of trying to release a sequel. Shady Hollywood drama, am I right? So WTF happened to Shaolin Soccer? Let's break it down. Long before Shaolin Soccer, Stephen Chow was already establishing his mark in Hong Kong cinema during the 90s. With films like Fight Back to School, The God of Cookery, and many more, he had already been crowned as the King of Comedy. By then, Chow had basically mastered Mo-Lei-Tao cinema, which was a unique genre originating from Hong Kong, full of absurd, nonsensical humor, slapstick comedy, and impromptu rapid-fire dialogues. Fun fact, Mo-Lei-Tao literally means make no sense, and they sure did not. Shaolin Soccer took that signature chaos and dialed it up like crazy by mixing soccer with superheroes, explosions, and kung fu philosophy. Choosing comedy and hilarious gags over structure and storyline, these films became a pop culture staple and cemented Chow's position and fame in Hong Kong. Now, however, with Shaolin Soccer, he was aiming higher. Much higher. He wanted to go global. He wanted an international breakthrough. And he was, of course, inspired by Bruce Lee films, having been a Bruce Lee fan ever since his parents took him to see Fist of Fury as a child. In fact, Chow also mentions how over-the-top soccer movies in Shaolin Soccer were inspired by the classic Japanese manga series Captain Tsubasa and its animation. So yeah, imagine Bruce Lee kicking a ball so hard it creates a black hole. He essentially wanted to create a unique premise for a martial arts film that would help promote Kung Fu philosophy to the wider global audience, and thus he dreamed up this absurdly hilarious film where martial arts and soccer collide. It was his impossible dream, to make Mo-Lei-Tao global. As he himself said, I can't rely on the global market because it's too small. So since Shaolin Soccer, it's always my ambition to go international. And guess what? He was so dedicated to the project that he wasn't just directing the film, but also acting in it. Remember Singh, the Shaolin Kung Fu master who wants to promote the practical benefits of martial arts to the world and then becomes the protagonist footballer around whom the entire team is created? Well, Singh was played by none other than Stephen Chow, who received high praise for his portrayal. And honestly, the character low-key sounds inspired by Chow himself, wouldn't you agree? Technically, he was pushing the envelope. Despite having a budget of $10 million US, which was actually a massive sum for Hong Kong cinema at the time, like Elon Musk's money, Chow faced some serious challenges. He needed some crazy mind-bending CGI to bring to life the equally crazy kicks and gravity-defying moves that he had envisioned. However, CGI technology was still relatively new back in 2001 and was still maturing, with a long way to go. If you guys have watched the film, you probably know the effects I'm talking about. Remember the bullet dodging scene in The Matrix where it feels like time slows down? Chow attempted something very similar with Shaolin Soccer, and the effect, you might have heard of it, is known as bullet time. This was used to slow down and further intensify the rapid kung fu soccer kicks and moves in the film. However, due to their tight budget, they used significantly fewer cameras to achieve this. Just 2 motion picture cameras. That's all. But Chow, he went all in, using CGI, wirework, slow-mo, bullet time, flame effects, and more to turn soccer into pure kung fu magic on screen. Now that sounds like a lot, right? But the South China Morning Post praises Chow's CGI approach for enhancing the martial arts genre without overwhelming it. So you can just imagine the sheer amount of risk that production companies like Star Overseas Limited and Universe Entertainment Limited had taken backing Chow's insane venture into a kung fu football comedy with cutting-edge visual effects, all on a limited budget. The film was mainly shot in Shanghai and Zhuhai, with an intensive filming schedule pretty much unheard of in Hong Kong cinema. And believe me when I say, the production went all out. With cinematography by Quen Pak Huen and Kwang Ting Wo, editing by Kai Keat Wai, and a banging soundtrack by Lowell Ho and Raymond Wong, this kung fu sports comedy was born. Now, it encountered a small hurdle during its course of filming and production. It sort of got banned in China, where the Chinese Communist Party's National Radio and Television Administration wanted Chow to change the title of the film from Shaolin Soccer to Kung Fu Soccer, since they were concerned that the film's title would insult Buddhists. However, Chow refused to change the title, and thus, as a result, got banned from shooting in mainland China for 1 year. Nonetheless, Shaolin Soccer kept going with unwavering determination. No wonder, after all that effort, Shaolin Soccer became Hong Kong's biggest hit. The film hit the screens on July 12, 2001, and absolutely killed it. It did something never done before in Hong Kong cinema, and with earnings over 60 million Hong Kong dollars, approximately 7.7 million US dollars domestically, it became the highest grossing film in Hong Kong, breaking all records to bits. However, it wasn't just a box office success, it was so much more. It was proof that Chow's Mole Tao comedy style had the potential to blow up and make waves not only in Hong Kong, but also internationally. And it was here to stay. In fact, its real magic happened internationally. Worldwide, the film grossed around 42.8 million US dollars, which is an insane 98.9% of revenue coming from audiences abroad. So you can imagine the impact Shaolin Soccer had on pop culture, both in Hong Kong and internationally. It led to comic books in China and the USA, and even inspired some of the effects in Avatar: The Last Airbender. In fact, its theme of brotherhood, teamwork, and sportsmanship is recreated a few years later in another sports comedy, Dodgeball. A clip from the film was even played on the big screen of the venue during the 2006 FIFA World Cup. Crazy, right? Fans had nothing but good things to say about the film, calling it the goofiest, dumbest, strangest, and funniest film ever made. Turns out, Kung Fu plus soccer equals lots of laughs. It was also culturally impactful, where it took the Asian philosophy of Kung Fu and Shaolin martial arts and brought it to the Western world through the unifying sport of soccer. It broke cultural barriers between the East and the West, all while making us roll on the floor laughing. No doubt the film is now known as a cult classic. Well, that's not all. By now, we all know that commercial success isn't everything unless you can win over the critics during awards season. And guess what? To no one's surprise, Shaolin Soccer won award after award. At the 2002 Hong Kong Film Awards, Shaolin Soccer dominated, winning Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Stephen Chow. The film was nominated in a total of 13 categories and won Best Supporting Actor, Wong Yat-fei, Best Sound Design, and Best Visual Effects. Bloody hell. The Hong Kong Film Awards were basically the Stephen Chow fan club that year. And it didn't just stop there. It went on to bag awards internationally too, winning the award for Best Visual Effects and being nominated for Best Action Choreography at the Golden Horse Awards. It also won Best Picture and Best Director awards at the Golden Bauhinho Awards. Feels like the list never ends. Chow was like Thanos, collecting Infinity Stones, but with awards. Shaolin Soccer even had really good reviews online, with an 89% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Fans even say the plot is utterly ludicrous, and the soccer in the movie is unlike any ever played anywhere on Earth, but watching Shaolin Soccer, you'll probably find it impossible to care. And I couldn't agree more. Time later even ranked it among the all-time 25 greatest sports movies ever. Everything was going well for this brilliant sports comedy until suddenly there was a major twist in the story. Things took a dark turn when the US release of Shaolin Soccer turned into a total nightmare. What happened, you ask? Well, have you heard of the film production company Miramax? Back then, under Harvey Weinstein, Miramax bought the international distribution rights in 2001. But instead of releasing it right away, the company held on to the film for a whole 3 years before finally releasing it in 2004. In fact, the US release date of Shaolin Soccer, or rather Kung Fu Soccer, was scheduled and rescheduled numerous times over a year and a half. Now, this was problematic for two main reasons. First, the FIFA World Cup was all set to happen in 2002 and would have created the perfect atmosphere and hype for Shaolin Soccer. However, due to the delay in release, the film completely missed out on this opportunity, which could have taken Chow's masterpiece to further heights of fame and made it an international staple. Secondly, they completely butchered the film with unnecessary cuts and edits, completely destroying Chow's vision. Not only was there a title change, from Shaolin Soccer to Kung Fu Soccer, something Chow heavily opposed of, as we mentioned before, they also cut over 20 minutes of the film just to get the runtime down to 1 hour 30 minutes. They even tampered with the film's music and soundtrack, which was replaced by rap music, not to mention the fact that the original Cantonese audio track was replaced with an underwhelming English dub. Naturally, were vehemently protested by fans and critics alike, who took no time to criticize Miramax and Weinstein, as they should. People were pissed and unafraid to express their disdain. Ain't It Cool News' Harry Knowles led the charge, calling out Miramax with a scathing post. Miramax's ongoing destruction of classic Hong Kong cinema must be stopped. Fans were standing on business. This soon led to fans urging everyone to import and pirate the original version rather than support the butchered US release. In fact, Miramax's unwillingness to distribute Shaolin Soccer for almost 2 years only made the underground word of mouth stronger, as cinephiles and fans searched absolutely everywhere for copies of the film. Wired even reported that it became one of the most downloaded movies online at the time due to its unavailability in the USA. And as it turns out, this wasn't just a one-and-done situation. Miramax and Harvey Weinstein had a pattern of editing, or rather butchering, Asian movies to supposedly make them more palatable and suitable for American audiences. What a load of bullshit. This showed a wider phenomenon where such production companies treated Asian cinema as disposable commodities rather than works of art that deserve respect and recognition. Fortunately, critics weren't forgiving at all. They openly said that Shaolin Soccer is far better than any film that Miramax created last year, putting Miramax in their place. But the story doesn't end there. While it's been over 2 decades since the release of Shaolin Soccer, fans received some exciting news around 2 years ago that has renewed interest in Chow's work and has us fans on the edge of our seats. So what was the news? In June 2023, Stephen Chow announced a much-awaited sequel, Shaolin Women's Soccer. He teased a script reveal with a silhouette of a female martial artist and captioned his post with his typical cheeky charm. To spend a good time with so many pretty girls, young, beautiful, smart, curvy, athletic. All countries are welcome. The more the better. With women's soccer taking off in recent times and gaining more and more traction, well-deserved traction, might I add, you can imagine the reception this film is gonna get. I, for one, would absolutely love to go watch this in the theaters. Did you guys watch Kung Fu Hustle, the other Stephen Chow masterpiece that brilliantly parodies the whole genre of slapstick kung fu comedy? In 2019, there were reports regarding the development of a sequel to Kung Fu Hustle as well. Looks like Chow is back in the game and ready to expand his Kung Fu universe. Now, coming back to Shaolin Women's Soccer, after the initial teaser back in 2023, production finally began in March 2025. Filming started with full vigor as Chow was spotted at sports stadiums in China directing action sequences. Wondering which familiar faces you might spot in the film? Well, the rumored cast includes names like Dilraba Dilmurat, Zhang Yixing, Zhang Xiaofei, and surprisingly, Sung Gang-ho. Remember the dad from Parasite? That's him. Imagine him doing Shaolin backflips on a soccer field. In fact, even retired Chinese football player Zhao Lina is expected to appear in the film. Chow has a reputation for putting in immense amounts of effort and dedicated preparation into his films, whether Shaolin Soccer or Kung Fu Hustle, and it looks like this approach will continue even for Shaolin Women's Soccer. Now, if this doesn't have you jumping with excitement for Shaolin Women's Soccer, then I don't know what will. Marvelous verdict. So WTF happened to Shaolin Soccer? It absolutely blew the roof off of Hong Kong Mole Tao cinema and turned it into an international sensation that was not only a financial success, but also garnered critical praise with awards galore. Miramax did knock it off its trajectory with their unnecessary editing, cuts, and delays. Who knows where Shaolin Soccer would have been today if Weinstein and Miramax hadn't destroyed its legacy? We probably would have already had 5 sequels and at least 1 TV adaptation. But despite the setbacks, Shaolin Soccer is back, baby. For years, fans hunted for the real version, and Chow's secret sequel stayed in limbo until now. So get ready for a comeback of epic proportions as Chow and his team announce Shaolin Women's Soccer. And stay tuned with us for updates. With that, we're at the end of this video. So remember to like and subscribe to our channel if you enjoy our content, and we'll see you soon.